A very good morning to you all. Welcome to Sunrise Daily from wherever you are watching. We hope you had a good rest. Welcome to the program. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Good morning.
Yeah, it better be good because this 1st of June is a unique one, I tell you.
Indeed, it is the 1st of June. Look who's the accurate timekeeper. Shall I say
man.
Date keeper today. Welcome to the program. It's another sunny day here. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, I see there's a lot of competition for your job right now.
Well, the good thing is we don't have to campaign for it.
Oh, well, I wonder, it's a thankless job as well. But welcome to Lagos. I really don't know about rest, but we're here, up bright and early. I'm Kayode Okikele.
And I really don't know about the sunny part of it either, because I got out of the house this morning, it was heavy, the clouds was heavy. I got on the road, it has rained in Lagos this morning. Welcome, well, you know the dates already. I'm Ayo Makinde, welcome to the program. And, you know, talking about, you know, bright and sunny day, cloudy day, those weather conditions are important, whether you, especially to flyers, the aviation industry, pilots, and all of that. But, and, you know, that famous Nigeria Air conversation.
Or infamous, as the case may be right now.
Depending on who is looking at it. You know, I don't even know where to begin with that one, because on the one hand, we're hearing, okay, we have Nigeria Air now, and then the next thing we're hearing, okay, that particular aircraft you saw was going for some repairs. Next thing we know, Nigeria Air's AOC,
the Air Operators
Certificate has been denied by Nigeria's NCAA. I don't know. Questions.
I think this is simple. The question is one: what or where is Nigeria Air? I mean, it's a simple.
Are you talking about the aircraft or the company?
All of them, actually, because there's no airline without the aircraft, except it's a bus company or just a, you know, taxi company or bike company. And it's important to answer that question because the outgoing government, particularly the former Minister of Aviation, raised lots of hopes. In fact, there was that promise before May the 29th, Nigeria Air would land in the country. Yes, there was some sort of landing. Okay, we saw a bird that was branded Nigeria Air. There was lots of celebration, and we understand that the bird is back to its nest, literally, because it flew in from Ethiopia. I don't know how long it spent, but it's since come back, at least according to the trackings that we have seen. So lots of questions. I will be shocked to see that this was just some sort of, you know, drama, just, you know, to string Nigerians along just for the show, and then behind the scenes everything is packed back and it's back to normal. Nigerians must not be taken for granted. Yes, you may be the former Minister of Aviation, but you need to answer these questions to Nigerians. What happened with Nigeria Air? How much money was spent? Because with the quantum of funds we've heard that was pushed or dumped into this, we need the real answers. Nobody is flying Nigeria Air, we're sure of that. The bird, at least as far as we know, is not in the country. So, former Minister of Aviation, in fact, for this outgoing government, what happened to Nigeria Air? We need those answers.
Those questions, you know, need to be asked, particularly because, more importantly, because many people in the aviation industry already offered all kinds of opinions.
Yeah.
I remember Captain Sinusi, you know, speaking to us and saying, look, the federal government didn't need to go that far looking for another carrier, because the federal government, through the AMCON, has 3 airlines which
part
could
managing,
have,
right?
Yes, they could harmonize all of their energies into one and do something amazing with it in the name of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if we must have a national carrier, then it has to have the full value of it. That question is very important. The same question we asked about oil theft. Who are the oil thieves? You're asking again, before this one is also swept under the already pregnant carpet. Where is Nigeria Air? Or is this in Abuja, guys?
Are these guys for real?
What's going on?
Are they really asking me where Nigeria Air? It has vanished into thin air. That's what has happened to it. God. I mean, did you really think that was... let's get serious now. Let's get serious, guys. It is... there is no comment. I don't have any comments. Maybe we should go and bring back the minister, the former minister, and ask him what happened to the Nigeria Air. Has it vanished into thin air? Was that what you promised us? It's really very, very sad. I don't think anybody was fooled by that. When you insist that an airline must take off on the eve of your departure from office, you have to ask us. I mean, as people have said, and as our guests said on the program, was it on Friday, we had Captain Sanusi, and we asked extensive questions. Don't forget that, those in the aviation sector were really up in arms against, they were not quite certain how it was going to, operate and alongside their own business. But they also wanted to see certain indices in place if the federal government really was serious about a national carrier. And they wanted to know, is it going to be a national carrier or a flag carrier? These are two distinct things. I know that after the collapse of Nigeria Airways, we did try a flag carrier by, having a partnership with Virgin Atlantic. There was, is it Nigeria? I'm trying to remember the name now. Virgin Nigeria. Yeah, that was the name of the airline. Virgin Nigeria. And that didn't quite work out. You've read what Mr. Richard Branson had to say about conducting business in Nigeria. It was really a very embarrassing and very sad moment in our history. Nonetheless, you will find a minister who says, I really want this to fly. But a number of people were saying, no, this is not the way to go. This is not the way. And he insists. He bulldozes his way and said, no, I'm going to do it. In spite of all of the obstacles, he says, don't worry, an airline is going to land in Nigeria on the eve of my departure. And then everyone knows, okay, this man, come on now. Are you trying to pull the wool over our eyes? If you did not fly 1 year before your departure, it's now 2 days before you leave office that is going to fly. Even if an airline, even if a plane lands, does that really mean that an airline has started? They're two significant things. So I think that there needs to be very difficult discussions as to what exactly the minister was thinking, what exactly this display you are seeing on your screen now, what it was about. Was this just braggadocio? Was this really about getting an airline? Was this really, what exactly was it? There needs to be very serious talks around it. I don't want to say a probe, but we need to understand what this was about, really, and how much has been expended in getting this here.
That's key.
And, what precisely the plan is. I imagine that the new minister now is going to be very unclear, because we understand that those in aviation are saying they want to be back under the Ministry of Transport. Don't forget that initially in the first administration, as the first term of President Buhari, aviation was under transport. So we had a Minister of State for Aviation and then a Minister of Transport who was supposed to oversee the broad areas of transport, including aviation. But by the second tenure, he, put it apart again. There was now Ministry of Aviation and Ministry of Transportation. So now whether the new president is going to maintain the same template as we've seen before, we've seen this previously, is very unclear. But there were talks that those in the Ministry of Aviation say they would like to be under the Ministry of Transport. Now, whether that's just something in passing, I don't know. But we'll get to see what exactly, now how much of an investigation, how much of a real conversation we can have on this, considering that it's one government that is handing over to another government and they'll be wanting to, let's not talk too much about it, lest we embarrass ourselves. It's very unclear. But I do think that for the sake of the Nigerian people, there needs to be a real expose as to what has happened and really what we want. Do we really want a national carrier? it will be a thing of pride. But I think a lot of Nigerians are skeptical as to the sincerity of their government workers and agencies in managing efficiently something that's supposed to run professionally, such as an airline.
Well, it's going to be really, really interesting because I know that at the moment there's so many things Nigerians are looking to get answers from this government because, yes, we're grappling with this adjustment of pump price, still trying to get to the reality of it all. Don't worry, we'll discuss that today on the program, so definitely that will be here. But about this Nigeria, there's just a lot of questions, as we did raise with Captain Sanusi and several other experts, which maybe, of course, this government will have to speak to all of those matters because right from when they said we budgeted 6.25 billion or disbursed 6.25 billion naira on consultancy in 2021, which was in 2022 budget, and then 14.6 billion for the takeoff of that, 30 billion for Nigeria new project. Of course, the ownership as it was broken down, 49% for Ethiopia Air, but in terms of where the aircraft is, several people have checked and put it out there. Just simple check and the ID, the tracker there is back on the Mogadishu Addis Ababa route. So that's what is going on at the moment. But there are huge questions. And the minister did say at the time, I think it was just about, 60% for the, I can't remember the name now, but there are so many questions that are not answered. Maybe this government will try and take time and collate all of those and find out where did they stop, where are we? After all, they said there was a handover note. So all of those things will be there, and we expect a lot of answers moving forward. When should we, is it a flag carrier? Is it a national carrier? Those are all the questions that we need answers for, because if not, then it may definitely turn into a probe of sorts. But we'll keep our tabs on that one and bring you all the information we get as we get them. But then the dailies are reflecting what transpired yesterday when it came through and hit a lot of people. It was like, goodness, is this really going on? It sounded really alarmist when we saw on social media, when you went through some of those stations and you see those prices, you thought this must be a fluke. But look at Vanguard newspaper, for instance. Petrol above 500 naira per litre as subsidy removal takes effect. And that is a controversial point because that's what Labour and the government are grappling with right now. Right from the definition of the word subsidy, what it means, should it be gone holistically? Is it realistic for it to be gone totally? In what form? Do they change the name and have a way of coming through? We'll bring all of that to you today on the program because we have several persons who are lined up, industry players, to give us perspectives on what's going on with that negotiation. But there's also riders here. NNPCL confirms hike, adjusts pumps nationwide. Borno, Yobe, most expensive states with 557 naira per litre. Lagos remains least with 488 naira per litre. The regulation will enhance growth. This is ascribed to NATI. FG's meeting with NLC, TUC ends in deadlock. Meeting to reconvene Sunday as Labour leaders meet Friday. FG should rehabilitate refineries, ascribed to NECA. APC governors back Tinubu on subsidy removal, says Atiku. Obi also promised same. But only one person is president now, so these other ones will be relevant in the manner of speaking. Well, probably. You never know these days. But there you go. That is the lead story here today. And you can see the images on the front page associated with that lead story and the price adjustment template being put in place by the NNPC station. Wait a minute, guys. At some point, do we expect to even see Dangote petrol stations? If the refinery is there, who knows? One wonders.
I think they told us June, eh?
No, in terms of when they start rolling it, right? And I'm talking about, will they eventually get into this retail market?
It'll be interesting to see. I think for a number of people, they've been saying that the reason why major players haven't gotten into the retail market is because of the subsidy regime, the subsidy administration, and that when that is away, because if you go to even neighboring Ghana, for the longest of time, you see Shell is in the downstream sector in Ghana. So why wouldn't you see those who play in the upstream and midstream in our country? Why wouldn't they play in the downstream? Big questions to be asked. So let us see what this needs to, what this will eventually bring. But leadership has this on the front page this morning, also focusing on subsidy removal. Federal government labor talks deadlocked as marketers raise fuel pump price. So that's the lead story there. Yeah. Labour talks deadlocked as marketers raise fuel pump price. NNPCL confirms 557 naira per litre price, cites current realities. NLC rejects new pricing template. When dire moment, APC chairman Adamu laments, stakeholders call for palliative to cushion effects. So something remarkable happened yesterday. I was just telling you about how what I thought was happening was that people were trying to quickly queue to buy what was left at the old price. And the moment it went to 500 and how much per litre, you know, it would seem that the queues immediately disappeared. On my way home, you could drive into even filling stations that hadn't sold in God knows how long on the road to
the floor, their gates open.
Their gates were open.
You see that?
So I was wondering what has just happened. So you people had petrol all along, and you know, for some reason you weren't selling. Anyways, let us see how the coming days will be. Not going to preempt what Labour and federal government will eventually come to. But look at this. APC governor speak Uzodinma as PGF chairman. What is PGF? You might want to flip to page 6.
Progressive Governors Forum.
Beg your pardon?
Progressive Governors Forum.
Oh, yes. That's what they call their own association. Progressive Governors Forum chairman. So is he going to be the most senior now amongst all of the governors? No, maybe not. Maybe not. Some governors are coming back for a second tenure. So page 6 is where you'll find details. Yeah, even amongst governors, they do those things about seniority. They call some people who just got into office first-term governors. That's what they call them. Look at this. Tinubu, INEC, APC ask tribunal to dismiss Atiku's documents. The story is on page 7 of the paper. You might want to know why that presidential election petition court is still holding. Page 7 will give you details. Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio rises to 10.86%. That's also there. And a beat on security. Troops kill 55 ISWAP top commanders, terrorists in Borno. That is also there somewhere inside leadership newspapers. Let's leave it there for the paper.
All right, take a look at the Guardian. Guardian is looking ahead, so to speak, with this big story. Poses about $800 million palliative. Labour's next move as Nigerians brace for higher inflation.
Someone had to bring up that $800 million.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's the elephant in the room, really, because a lot of people are asking, what plans does the government have? This one, that one. And they remember, oh, there's that $800 million. So what's the situation about that at the National Assembly? Has it been finally approved? Well, I doubt it, but we'll give you more details. But that's the pictorial you have on the front page, what the price is now and how that has projected across different administrations from Obasanjo. You know, at some point it was 20 naira per litre, 1999. Then during Yaradua, it was 65 naira. Remember that famous drop? 700 to 70 rather to 65. Then Jonathan, 65 up until towards the end it was 145. Buhari ended at 184, even though we still bought it for 195 and all. But now the list is 488. So that's where we're at. So that's how far we have come. How far so far, as you like to say. Page 6 has more details. And you see this one on the front page as well. No work, no pay. Falana sues FG over alleged unfair treatment of ASU members. You know, there was a court judgment 2 days ago, that talked about no work, no pay stands. It also talked about IPIS, by the way, that court judgment, saying that, well, it is an infringement on university autonomy, to not allow them to decide how they want to be paid. Very interesting judgment. You might want to find more details on our website, channelstv.com. It's a big one, really. fuel subsidy removal is definitely big. We're diving into it for you this morning. But let's leave it there for The Guardian.
I find that also interesting on the front page of The Guardian when it says 26% of Nigerians financially literate. Botswana is ahead of Africa. Ahead in
people
Africa.
that participated in the survey, because, hey, Nigerians and money, believe me, I think they are literate.
Daily Independent is next, everyone, and what you have on the front page, of course, is what it is. Labour rejects new fuel price, says it's ambush on Nigerians. Opens talks with FG, wants it to go back to status quo. NNPC increases fuel price to 488 and must be between 488 and 557 naira per litre.
So
Stories
funny.
on page 29.
For the very first time, some filling stations opened their gates, said, come and buy petrol we have. But people said, no way, with that price. And it's the first time, really. They opened the gates suddenly. There was lots of queues. And then they opened the gates and said, let's come and buy it for 500. And people are like,
So you had it all along?
Yeah.
Or where did they come? Or did it grow under the... Anyway, this, I don't know. I don't know. Let me just leave it there. Okay, so that picture, of course, on the front page also made the news yesterday. The president and a special envoy of Chinese president to Abuja. Under that story, under the picture, you see that story we talked about earlier. Nigeria aircraft, see the aircraft is in inverted commas, returns to service in Ethiopian Airlines colors. Okay, true or false? Some answers are very, very necessary.
that aircraft must be tired. Last week it was on Nigeria side, days before it was in Ethiopia, now it's back to, gosh.
If only the airline could tell us, I formerly known
Some
as.
traumatic.
I formerly known as.
Oh, so goodness.
Well, above the nameplate is this one. Senate uncovers how MDAs abused 3.8 trillion naira service-wide votes. I always talk about it, and I'm going to do it again this morning. Is this captured in the Auditor General's report? If not, why not? Who are those who have questions to answer? 3.8 trillion naira is definitely too much for one person's savings account. But that's the Daily Independent newspaper this morning.
Telegraph next. FG organized Labour meeting on fuel subsidy removal deadlocked. Labour wants pump price reversed. Government only engaged Labour on way forward after removal. I like it. NNPCL. Okay, I'll go again on this one. NNPCL hikes petrol pump prices nationwide by over 200%. Northeast, 557 naira. Northwest, 540. North Central, 537. Southeast, 520. South, 511. Southwest, 500. Lagos, 488 per litre. Sometimes maybe we need to get them to tell us what's the rationale behind these. So
Transport.
Is that the
Transport, essentially.
But they always told us that there is what we call
Petroleum
bridging.
equalization.
Yeah.
That's no
bridge
longer.
the gap.
That's no longer in existence.
But it came on down as agencies.
It's been
So-
scrapped as an agency.
But even when it was there, this template was operational. So all of that time, what was going on? They always.
No, I have
told
no
us.
answers. But that's what we were told. That, that's why it existed. The Petroleum Equalization Fund was to bridge that to ensure that it was the same price across the country. So they pay transport costs, etc., etc., etc. Now they've since been scrapped because they've been saying that they will scrap. In fact, the name of their office has since changed, and they've been subsumed under the midstream and downstream sector of the NNPC. So that's what ought to be. Now, if there's another thing there, je ne sais pas.
Because this template
I don't
had
know.
been there for decades, when billions was going through all of those agencies, and for the life of me, you'd always ask these questions, but we never seem to get answers, as it were. Downstream sector, look at this now. Fully, being a professional word, fully deregulated. Ascribe to Ip Man. We'll hear from them this morning. And then EFCC, how former PDP chair's son, others perpetrated oil subsidy fraud. Okay, so, and then we're speaking about the airline this morning, guys. Look at this at the bottom strip. Airlines, CBN defrayed nearly $700 million foreign carriers' funds. Say January to April 2023 outstanding. United Nigeria's airline plane skied off Lagos Airport runway. So that also showed up there. And then there's this study which says mental condition increases sleep disorder risk. Oh boy. All right, there you go. That's New Telegraph this morning.
Well, I'm looking at Daily Trust. They have a very important headline. It's just one story, but it's extremely important. If you take a look at it, CBN devalues Naira to 630 Naira to the dollar. Now, that is certainly very significant. How that is going to impact what we currently witness on the parallel markets. Without cure, this multiple rates we see across the board, it will be left to be seen, because sometimes, the doctor can only prescribe medicine. Whether it will work for the patient, it's another kettle of fish.
Wow.
But this devaluation it certainly had ripples on the market yesterday, at least the parallel market. Naira immediately gained somewhat. Whether that will be sustained will be left to be seen. Look at the riders there. The rider says, decision follows Tinubu Emefiele's meeting. So that's also there. Realistic exchange rate to save 4 trillion Naira. That's also there. That's according to LCCI ex-Director General. 2023 budget is the first casualty. It's also there as a rider. So it means that the parameters on our budget has now been made nonsense of. So what would the implication of that be? Don't forget that every year we will have certain assumptions. We will produce this many barrels of crude oil at this price. We hope to sell at this price. We will maintain the Naira to the dollar at this particular rate. I think 430 was the last rate. If it's now been devalued to 630 Naira to the dollar, that certainly has grave implications for Nigeria's budget. Let us leave it there. Or Daily Trust.
Well, Nigeria News Direct is next on the lineup. Subsidy removal, of course, is a big story. I mean, what else is bigger, right? Despite growing frustration, APC governors back Tinubu. So that's a very interesting angle to this as well. So is it just APC governors? What is happening at the NEC as well? That's where you have all of the governors represented, where they have all of that meeting. And remember, the NEC during the previous administration had said, well, we don't think now is the time and all of that. So is this NEC different? Is it a new NEC?
Actually, what we are not registering is the fact that subsidy was removed by the previous government, but it's just being executed. The same way the Treasury single account was enacted by the Jonathan government, but was activated by the Buhari government.
But it looks like it's coming 1 month early, because it was meant to be at the end of June. But it's starting at the end of May.
The question you want to ask is it not our interpretation of the president's speech?
No, I'm saying now that you've seen the rates from NNPC at least going up. Looks like subsidy has been removed in that area. So
I agree with you.
1 month too early?
I agree with you 100%. So maybe it's the NNPC that now has questions to answer concerning that. Because if they had waited, for instance, until the end of June, then it would have been justified. So what's going to happen to this 1 month? Or is this where we need the $800 million? I don't know.
Very good question. So it's a big story, and lots of other stories on the front page of the Nigeria News Direct. You see 2023 budget implementation, new governors lament over multi-trillion Naira debts of predecessors. That's also another angle to all of this conversation. So very important stories right there on the front page of Nigeria News Direct. I'll leave you to do the choosing.
And that's the much of the papers we can take this morning. So many of those issues coming up, but of course the biggest of them is the one that is affecting you directly now. But back after now, we'll take on the issues as to come. Stay with us.
right, yesterday there was a flurry of activities across board about this fuel subsidy matter. Well, first, there were several things going through, but there was this statement from the NNPCL where adjustment in pump price of PMS. So Gabriel put up a statement and he did say NNPC Limited wishes to inform our esteemed customers that we have adjusted our pump price of PMS across our retail outlets in line with the current market realities. As we strive to provide you with the quality service we are known for, it is pertinent to note that prices will continue to fluctuate to reflect market dynamics. We'll take a look at that bit moving forward. And then he goes on to say, we assure you that NNPC Limited is committed to ensuring ceaseless supply of products, as you get to hear always. And then signed by Gabriel. We'll bring you all of that much later. And that was because there was this price template that was being circulated at the time where several people looked at different band of prices for different regions and different states. In Abuja, for instance, the current NNPC pump price was 194 naira per litre, but the new pump price per 31st May 2023 is 537 naira per litre. And then if you look at that of Maiduguri, it was 557 naira per litre. Owerri, 515 naira per litre. Port Harcourt, 511 naira per litre. Lagos, 488, and then different price templates for different states, which was also out there. But then, not long after that, the president of NLC did put up a statement titled, "That NNPC pricing template is vexatious," and then ambush, the dialogue is in danger. He had told us yesterday as well that they were scheduled to have that meeting 2 p.m. I think they had met previously, and then they were to continue 2 p.m. yesterday. That meeting held. We'll get some insights from that meeting from some of those who were in that meeting. So there you go. The statement is there for everyone to read. So I will just skip that and then call for this report, which just highlights what transpired after that meeting held with stakeholders in Labour and government.
Barely 24 hours after the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited welcomed President Bola Tinubu's decision to halt fuel subsidy following the country's inability to continue payment, the federal government convened a meeting with the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress at the presidential villa. After several hours of meeting behind closed doors, the NLC did not hide their dissatisfaction as the meeting apparently ends in a deadlock.
As far as Labour is concerned, we didn't have a consensus in this meeting. You don't put the partner, ask him to negotiate under gunpoint. If we agree for a meeting by 2 today, and in the morning, you come out with price modulation, how can you fix price in a deregulated market? The prayers of NLC is that we go back to status quo, negotiate, think of alternatives and all the effects and how to manage the effects this action is going to have on the people. If it is an action that must take off.
In April, the previous administration had announced an 800 million naira palliative ahead of subsidy removal, but the NLC is not impressed with the arrangement.
So there is nothing that has been concluded. That is why we are reconvening. So there was nothing that was concluded. So that is why we will reconvene again. If we had met before, before now, we could have proposed a lot of things. Just as the CNG has said, we have experts in our midst who could have profiled some solutions.
Meanwhile, the federal government is determined to continue talks.
We had a very robust engagement. We cross-fertilized ideas. Ideas flew from all sides. And there's one thing that is remarkable, even from the Labour side, and that is Nigeria. We are looking at the peace, progress, and stability of Nigeria. And that is what is paramount. We cannot go into any details now because talks are still ongoing.
The Nigeria Labour Congress has decided to reconvene with her members to determine their next line of action. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
All All right, so that is what we'll focus on this morning. So we've got Festus Osifo, who is the president of Pangasi, and also TUC, as a matter of fact. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, Mawume. Good morning, Nigerians.
Yeah, so that's on the part of Labour. But we do have Alhaji Zarama Mustafa, who is the deputy president of IPMAN. He joins us from our studios in Maiduguri. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program as well. We'll get to hear from him also in the course of the program. But then government also negotiated with Labour, so we will have at least some perspective in that regard, we reckon, as the program also progresses. So let's start off with this. Yesterday, there was so much confusion. We thought that Labour was going to go ahead, have this meeting with government before we then expect to see what the price template was. Yeah. Because before that time, there was also this narrative out there that credited to government saying this quote-unquote fuel subsidy removal will not take immediate effect. And then many also had the impression that, okay, well, if they say they had pulled it off, it will take off, what, at the end of June or thereabout? So many were waiting. But when that price template came through, people thought, this marketer is trying to be clever by half. But then NNPC put up a statement saying, well, we have gone ahead and adjusted it. So how did all of this fit into that negotiation or conversation between Labour and government?
Yes, thank you so much, Chamberlain. That was really that was where the issue started from, actually, because at the end of the day, we had an understanding a day before, myself and the NLC president, we had an understanding with government that, okay, we are going to have a meeting yesterday at about 2 p.m. So we were going about trying to get, okay, those that will participate in the meetings, because our members are spread all over the country. Our officers are spread all across. So we're reaching out to them, okay, let's have this meeting 2 p.m. But to our surprise, around this time yesterday, so the information went out there. We saw the template the same way that you saw it in the media. So it was circulating in the social media. We tried to reach out to the government officials to find out, is this actually from you? So before you know, the other statement came from NNPC as well. So that caused that level of panic across the country. Just as you see a lot of stations, they now started selling these PMS, they threw their gates open and they started selling the PMS. So that actually put us in a very tight corner. You won't call for a meeting, then you are not taking actions that are putting the other party in a very difficult situation. So that was exactly what happened. So that altered the mood of the meeting, because our thought was, we will come in there, we come in with our ideas, we come in with our thoughts, then at the end of the day, we go back to our organs and give them feedback. But immediately that came, it changed the entire mood of the discussion. So, so for us, we saw it as an ambush. That you don't invite your social partners for conversation on the way forward, and you are taking actions that are also that are also putting them in a very difficult position. So clearly, what was done yesterday for us, it was not the best that could have been done. Yeah.
So what was the impression Labour gleaned from government? Was government aware of this? Was it a deliberate action or what?
Yes, we learned that the initial one that came out was not a deliberate action from government, but it was a kind of a working document, but it went to the press. So probably it was leaked. So when that came out, they now needed to put up the other statement that came in order to make the market understand that, okay, this is the direction to go. So the initial one, I mean, there was apologies that they didn't do it intentionally to put us in such a difficult situation. But they were thinking that probably after the meeting, when we must have agreed after the meeting and have those conversations, then if need be, they will not go ahead. But because the content actually went out before, so they now needed to own it. So that was part of the explanation that we got.
Well, Mr. Osifo, this was never going to be an easy decision. It would seem that I mean, we've been having these discussions, even not just on Sunrise Daily, also on Hard Copy. And we've been, I think this was since when the PIA was passed, that we've been having these discussions on what you think will happen to the subsidy regime. But let me quickly look at what has happened so far in the last couple of days since the president read out his speech. And it is a speech that has, will I say, accelerated the speed to where we currently are, when he did say subsidy is gone. And then the very next day, we see that they're queues at the filling stations in anticipation of the removal of subsidy. People quickly want to buy, and then before you know what's happening, there was chaos because marketers were selling at whatever price suited them for those that opened their gates. And for those that did not open their gates, some of them had the products but were refusing to sell. As of yesterday, I do not know, whether you also had people who were monitoring what was happening. As of yesterday, in some places, when the NNPC eventually did say, this was the price they were going to be selling at, in some places, the queues were there, the gates were open, people were refusing to buy. People were refusing to enter to buy. In some other places, people drove in and they bought.
Yeah, sure.
In places like Abuja, the queues all but disappeared. I mean, we didn't see any queues in Abuja. Now, if you drive into any filling station, even filling stations that have not been selling for a while are now selling. So I'm looking at the statement that Labour has released here, especially that of the NLC. It says government cannot in one breath be talking about deregulation and at the same time fixing the prices of petroleum products. This negates the spirit of allowing the operation of free markets unless the government has usurped, captured, or become market forces. And I'm wondering, is it that Labour thinks that at some point government should have no role to play in terms of the price that petroleum products are sold? Is that the belief of Labour?
Okay, before I come to that question, in the intro, you said something about people refusing to sell. I spoke with a marketer, a member of one of the marketing outlet organizations. So I spoke with them and I tried to find out what happened. The price was announced and immediately you are selling at XYZ price. So I was told that, okay, that the problem is this, that he had a fixed amount of money he's doing his business with, that he buys one tank, about 45,000 liters for every 1 week. And he spends also amount to buy this product, that if they increase the price to, let's say, 500 naira, as at that time, that he was buying it at about 150 naira. But if the price is moved to 500, that means the cost is going to be tripled. So if he doesn't sell at 500 today, he will not be able to have money to buy when the product increases. So that was the explanation that he gave. Although we had a to and fro conversation, let's leave that.
Which sounds totally logical.
Yeah. So so back to the question you asked. Please remind me again that particular question.
Yeah, about whether or not the government was also always going to play a role if Labour is not
okay. So those are the conversations that we must have. Mm-hmm. The conversations should be much more deeper than that. Okay, today I saw you in the paper review talking about the new exchange rate. CBN just came out, they've announced a new, if that is correct, as reported by that particular daily, then that means tomorrow, what stops them again from saying that the exchange rate is 1,000 naira? What stops them again from saying the exchange rate is 1,200? So now, how do you get to how do you fix pump price? Or how do you determine the price of the PMS at the pump? You have to factor in cost of production, and most of the cost of production is actually in USD. Then at the end, you now dovetail it into, or you convert it to Naira. You use the exchange rate. So if the exchange rate is fixed arbitrarily, then that means tomorrow we could buy PMS for as high as 1,500 Naira. So now, we don't believe that you should leave it 100% to the vagaries of the market. Today, you could realize that the cost of kerosene has gone up to about 1,000 naira. So we have asked some questions. This cost of kerosene, where are they sourcing their FX from? If they were sourcing their FX from CBN, the cost of kerosene wouldn't have been up to that amount. But because they go to parallel market to source for their FS, that is why kerosene is like that.
What
so
about
those
diesel?
are some of the questions that we have thrown to government. That now, what is the exchange rate that is going to be used? How is that also going to be controlled? Are you going to leave this to marketers to make margins of 200 naira, 300 naira, 400 naira per liter? So how are all these going to be done? Those are the understanding that we must all sit down and we must have that conversation.
So it would seem that if you already agree that at some point subsidy was going to go, the question was how. I think for a number of people that was the key question. How and what will be how will we be able to mitigate the untoward effects it will have on the people? Because I think what people say on the economy, it is the people that make up the economy. That conversation is still very pertinent. Some people will say it's still very pertinent, but it will only be able to happen only if we're able to see the areas where people are most affected. You don't agree?
No, absolutely, absolutely. You know, that is actually what Labour has been championing and pushing over the years. That you don't bring some policies that at the end of the day that will affect the people. A lot of policies of government, the people have bear the brunt. If you look at several policies, the only thing today that the people get relatively cheap compared to the cost of production is this PMS. Look at every other areas. The Nigerian workers are battered. Look at other areas. The masses are subjected to loss of hardship. But the only item is this, and you want to take it away. So taking it away, what are the alternatives? And that is why, before now, we've been having conversations. And one of the things government told us was that they are going to provide CNG. They were the one that brought it. They were the one that told us.
Compressed natural
yes. So in 2020, they told us. And we told them, okay, start providing this. With 2020, we are in 2023. There is no progress on that. So those are the broken promises that is really making us scared that today, a lot of trade unions, you have MOU, you have MOA, they are not being respected. Even some of the policies that government sits down on its own to design, when they are implementing it, they default on it. So how do you trust the same government to be able to see this through as well? So these are the real challenges that we are having in Labour.
We will still talk about Labour's perspective on way forward and solutions. But let's bring in Alhaji Zarama Mustafa, who is Deputy President of IPMAN, who joins us from our studios in Maiduguri. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, yes, we've heard from...
Good morning, Chamberlain.
Thank you. We've heard from Comrade Osifo about a certain perspective on why these prices, when they came through, immediately reflected on the pump price. But let's get your perspective. Who knows if it's the same thing? How is it, first of all, how did marketers internalize this? We know the prices are all over the place now, but what was the larger consideration in terms of why these prices took effect immediately?
Well, as far as independent marketers are concerned, I believe NNPC being the sole importer and the sole provider of petroleum, refined petroleum product, particularly PMS, to all the private depot owners and major marketers and independent marketers. Our only source is the product they import and supply to the depot owners, and subsequently independent marketers purchase from the private depots and some directly from NNPC. So with the latest development yesterday of the release of the prices of the new price of PMS, we just saw it, and we have no option than to abide by it and see how best we can be able to continue our business. Although it's a better feel that we all Nigerians have to swallow. But I know it's not going to be easy on the economy, on the citizenry, and almost every person.
So, George, just tell us. Yeah, go ahead. Government should look into what?
Government should look into it and provide palliatives in such a way that such effects can be at least minimized on the citizenry.
When you say that you just saw it and you had no option, weren't there conversations between the NNPC, the marketers, and then before they came to agreement on this price templates? What usually happens?
Well, Chamberlain, this issue of subsidy removal, if you can go through history, it all started during Olusegun Obasanjo, while late Rashid Badamasi was the head of PPPRA, Petroleum Product Regulatory Agency, which was basically first for it to unroll the regulation in the downstream source sector. They started with the regulation of AGO in 2003-2004, and they intended going to regulate all other products. But subsequent government of Eradua, Jonathan, tried as much as possible to see that this regulation has taken effect. But it could not succeed because of the obvious effect it will have on the citizenry and the reactions of the citizens. But with time, you can see the bulk of burden is putting on the economy and the government in general, especially now that government is all looking at how best they can be able to generate enough funds to fund all the dividends of democracy that is needed in areas of infrastructure, in areas of health, in areas of education, in areas of developing the SMEs and bringing about private sector driven economy that will propel Nigeria's economy to a better level.
Are you saying or suggesting that the NNPC unilaterally fixes these prices and marketers, either Moman or Ipman, have to comply?
Yes, NNPC being the sole supplier is the determinant of how much we purchase. The regulation is just taking effect. Maybe with time they will allow other players to also participate in the sourcing of the product and importing it to compete with the NNPC Limited.
All right, well, comrade, could you shed some light on this, if you will? Yes, if it's deregulated, what is expected to play out? Are we still going to keep having this kind of templates come through from NNPC? Because many would have thought if it's deregulated, the market forces would naturally take its course. This kind of scenario will no longer happen. So what's going to happen with that?
In a system where you deregulate 100%, you allow the market forces to come in. But the regulators and other government agencies that are also there to protect the consumers, you must also be active in such a way that the profit level or the margins that are going to be added should be managed. Because you cannot add like 200, 300, 400 naira margins to such a product. It would kill the entire system. So you don't just leave them 100% to say, okay, go ahead, fixed price, and again, there's also antitrust issues, so that all of them will not come together and decide that, okay, today we are going to sell for 1,000 naira, tomorrow it will be 1,200.
And form a cartel.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So our institutions must be strengthened when we get to that time. But as where we are now, we are not there yet.
I know that you're still going to have conversations with governments in terms of what's happening and how to proceed. Yeah. But could you tell us, what is Labour's suggested solution to this back and forth about perennial fuel subsidy debates?
Yes, if you follow, historical trend, Labour position, the two centers, the position has been relatively clear. Yes, you have other unions with different positions, but the position, because this union fits into the center. So the position of the center has been very clear. What has been government argument over the years are that this is not sustainable, that this product has been smuggled, that we are subsidizing our neighbors and all that. But Labour as well has also told government that you cannot bring in the inefficiency in government, the inability for you to protect your borders. You cannot transfer it into to the masses. So Labour in the past has told government that, okay, just imagine, Chamberlain, in the last years, we have been championing on making the refinery work. We have been championing. So if government has done some of all these, it would have been a bit easier. Yes, we understand, because, someone from that sector, that there is no huge price differential between local production and importation. But one thing that we clearly understand is that you cannot, local production is key, because when you produce locally, the value chain that will erupt from it is enormous. The jobs that is going to be created, it's enormous. So why are these refineries? They must all come to work. So now, part of what we have said, or like what is in the media space already about some of the thinking of government on the palliative, like the issue of distribution of 5,000 naira to 10,000 households. Immediately they said that, even during the Buhari's administration that just passed, there was release of statement from both centers, TUC and NLC. We kicked against it. That no, that the conditional cash transfer that you have done over these years, where are the data? How many people got this money? Because, the people that we speak with, the downtrodden, we cannot verify any of this. So that some of these things that you are putting on the table, they are not going to work. Because any financial system that is not auditable, then it's tainted with a lot of questions. So part of what we have said that will work, and that we agreed with government on this in 2020, is the issue of CNG, where they even offered, government on its own, offered that they are going to convert at least up to 1 million cars or thereabout, that they are going to provide these facilities across several stations in Nigeria. So all these were put on the table.
So Labour accepted that as a solution?
Yes, because what are we really after? What we are after, we are not fixated on subsidy, but what we are after is that a solution must be provided that will not make the masses and the Nigerian workers suffer. Okay. So part of it, just quickly, Chamberlain, so part of it was that, the cost of CNG is very cheap. You could get CNG not now that the Naira is trying to also move. With the earlier CBN rate, you could have gotten CNG around 160, 170 or thereabout. Okay. So if you have that and all the cars have the facilities to use CNG, then there is no issue.
Let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Mr. Osifo, let's try to help Nigerians understand what's going on here properly. What we've heard time and again is that subsidy is on up until the end of June. That's June the 30th. That's exactly 1 month from now. But with the latest price ban, the updates that we're seeing from the NNPC Limited, which, by the way, is not a commercial entity, what are you hearing? Does that mean that there is no more subsidy for even the 30 days up until June the 30th? What exactly, I imagine those questions were raised during that meeting, and what answers did you get from government?
Yeah, thank you so much, Coyote. So that was part of the issue that we had. We said that, when the president said it during the inaugural speech, that subsidy is gone. So part of the challenge we had, in fact, we quickly went back to the 2023 Appropriation Act to check, were we mistaken? Where are we on this? So we saw that it was still a law as at that time. So we now said that if this is still a law today, then why will subsidy be gone? So we thought, in fact, that there will be a retraction or a clarification on that by them issuing statements to clarify that, okay, it's up to the end of June, but that we are going to engage all stakeholders and all that. But at the end of the day, they said that they are implementing now, that the issue is that they don't have the finance to even sustain till the end of June. But we said that this is the law. So why can't you look for finance anywhere you could get finance from in order to also get this done? And between now and then, we could enter other conversations. Because even that June, when they said it's going to be in June, if you remember clearly, earlier on, in the year, we also agitated. We did a lot of press statements to say, if you are planning to do this, what are the alternatives? Come and have a conversation on what the alternative could be. Right. And for us, the primary alternative has been CNG. So, but what government has said, to answer your question succinctly, is that the deregulation has already started.
Right.
That means they are not waiting till June because they said they don't have the finances to get to that point. But the union response was that if you have monetary and fiscal challenges, how did we even get there? So you cannot mismanage the economy. You cannot put us in a difficult situation over the years, and at the end you want us to bear the brunt without sustainable alternatives and without sustainable palliatives. Okay. Palliatives that we know that will work.
Mr. Osifo, let me come in here quickly. There are lots of issues to raise just before I go to Mr. Mustafa, but I also need you to give some clarity on what played out yesterday at that meeting. Because a lot of people saw the meeting coming and they thought, okay, at least government called a meeting, things will be resolved quickly, as soon as possible. But you came out and said, well, you couldn't agree on a lot of issues. So what did Labour table? What were those issues that you couldn't agree upon? Because I know NNPC was represented there. The CBN governor was also represented there. So did the issues of Forex, for example, did it come up? Is that something, did you propose or make proposals on that? For the NNPC as well, did you make, what kind of proposals did Labour make? And how did it deadlock? What did government offer?
I know, so they invited us for the meeting. So we went to the meeting. I may not want to tell you everything that transpired in the meeting because the two centers will be having our NEC meeting on Friday, so that we will not preempt what the NEC is going to come up with. But I can only discuss what is already in the public space on some of the things that they provide. They talked about some palliatives, but one of the palliatives that they talked about that I will be comfortable to discuss on this program, not to preempt the neck of Trade Union Congress, is actually on the issue of 5,000. So they brought it forth, just as they sent to the National Assembly on the $800 million loan from the World Bank. So they brought it, and we challenged it. We told them that this is not going to work. This is not going to work because the issues are very clear. The ones you've done before, how were they done? How did you arrive at these numbers? We don't even know the people that have received this money. Where is the data? Nigeria is a country that we don't have database. So how do you even know those that are the poorest of the poor? How do you define them? So a lot of issues. So on that, we did not agree. So I would discuss that alone, but other few things that they put here and there, maybe after our next meeting on Friday, we will be able to now also have that conversation. So on what Labour, the major thing that Labour has been driving and pushing is alternative. There is an issue, there's a difference between alternative and palliative.
Well, yes, I understand.
Because alternative would make you, if you don't,
forgive me.
If you don't want this, what next?
I understand. And you've made that point, CNG, for example. So we need to understand that difference. But it's also important to carry Nigerians along because there are millions of Nigerians out there wondering what is going on, what is the government offering. And I think you'll be vital in helping Nigerians understand whether or not to support you, because the role of Labour is key, but it's dependent on the buy-in that the people get. Is the government acting in good faith, for example? Do you get that feeling during that meeting you had? Did they present things that seemed reasonable, that seemed, like it makes sense, this can help Nigerians? So I think it's important for you to also help Nigerians see, at least behind those walls. This will not, of course, be preempting the decision Labour will make, but it will give Nigerians the kind of information they need to make informed decisions. So to that extent, let me go to Mr. Mustafa. Maybe we'll come back to you on that point. But Mr. Mustafa, seeing what the NNPC Limited did, it's a commercial entity. Some have said, well, it is government fixing the price. But some say, well, we know that the NNPC is no more government-owned in that sense. It's since been incorporated and all of that. So to what extent, then, can we place this at the table of government, the decision by the NNPC Limited? Mr. Mustafa.
Well, just like you said, NNPC has been incorporated. It's more of a limited liability company. But I still believe NNPC is still government because it's 100% owned by the federal government. And it determines a lot when it comes to issues regarding petroleum product, refined petroleum product related decisions. NNPC plays the major role, and the other regulators also complement what they are doing. So I believe NNPC, being the sole provider as at today, is the only body that can determine whatever price regime they want to bring with the going of the deregulation as announced by the president in his inaugural speech. When we heard of it, we were not even expecting that such a thing is going to be implemented within before the end of May. And we were all surprised. We just came off yesterday in the morning and saw a list stating the prices of NNPC retail stations prices that is supposed to be sent to all their retail outlets across the nation. Stating prices, each state has its own different price based on the location of the station or location of the state from the source of the product. That's the coastal depots where most of the products are being lifted and subsequently transported to all nook and crannies of the country.
Well, Mr. Mustafa, just to be clear, what is the position of IPMAN on this, on the removal of subsidy on petrol? Just to be clear, because we had your PRO yesterday, national PRO yesterday, saying it's the best decision, and then this that is happening and that you're also responding to. Quick one on that. What is the position of IPMAN? Just to be clear.
Well, our position of IPMAN is we support in totality the deregulation of the industry, because this issue has been lingering for 20 years now. The refineries are not working. Government could not provide the needed petroleum product supply. A lot of issues of shortages, scarcity, adulterated products. We have passed through a lot of challenges. I believe if the government will look stand on its on the regulation policy, the private sector will come in to fully also contribute its own quota in the development of the downstream subsector.
Well, Mr. Mustafa,
a lot of companies are trying to build refineries.
There are a number of other issues to raise with you, if you don't mind me butting in. I just want to also get this out. I mean, you've raised your concerns about the position of the NNPC, NNPCL on the fuel prices and all of that. If you can hear me, Mr. Mustafa.
I believe we will have
just listen to me. If you can hear me, Mr. Mustafa, I'm trying to put in another question to you now. So, the NNPC put out the statement detailing its retail prices to its own fuel stations. What have you heard about the cost that marketers such as yourself will be lifting this fuel from the depots because, as you said, it's NNPC's retail prices. What have you heard about how much marketers will be lifting from the depots? Has that also risen, or it's going to remain status quo until the end of June?
Can you rephrase the question? I didn't get the question right.
You talked about. Can you hear me better now? Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I can hear you, but not it's faint. I can hear you.
Okay.
It's a little bit faint.
Now, you talked about the NNPC putting out a statement on retail prices at its own fuel stations. Has the depot prices also written by which marketers will lift petrol from the depots, or it's the same until the end of June?
Well, as far as independent marketers are concerned, as at now, we have not been officially communicated in terms of the depot price today. But there are some papers going around, just like the ones we saw yesterday, that is stating a liter is going to be purchased in the private depot at the cost of 460-something naira. I don't know the exact price, but it won't be anything less than 460 naira. The new deregulated price that a marketer is supposed to buy. Then you will add up your transportation cost and your marketer's margin. That will come to whatever price that government has announced yesterday.
Is that the
like
official?
In Maiduguri now,
is that the official price you heard from the NNPC?
Pays us.
Is that the official price you heard from the NNPC?
Pays us per liter for about 51 naira for transportation from Lagos to Maiduguri. So if you lift at 460 something, you have to add up that 51 naira and add up your margin for you to at least remain afloat in business.
All right. Let me come back to you, Mr. Osifo, in our Abuja studio. Now, one of the things that the labor movement generally have often said is that, look, you can't remove fuel subsidy, petrol subsidy. Maybe I should even ask you this first. Let's be clear. What exactly do you think government is talking about when they talk about subsidy? Is it fuel subsidy or petrol subsidy?
In this path, we use them interchangeably. So it's a premium motor spirit. So that's the internationally acceptable name for the product we are talking about. So it's PMS. So that particular PMS today is being subsidized. But what brings about the subsidy? It's actually about the cost of production or the landing cost.
Explain all of that. So but there's a place that I'm coming to. My apologies, Mr. Osifo.
Okay.
There's a place that I'm coming to. One of the things that has been raised frequently by labor is that government should get the refineries working before this petrol subsidy or fuel subsidy, as you call it, is removed. By my understanding, Pengasan means petroleum and natural gas workers. I assume your members work at the refineries, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. From what you know, how much of a contribution of government saw to the dereliction of duties, if we can use that term, concerning the refineries, and how much of it would you say is the responsibility of workers at those refineries?
No, absolutely, not because I'm the president of Pengasan at well, but putting it succinctly, I have given some illustrations before. So you have a driver. So you got the car and you give this car to an Uber driver. And the manufacturer of this car says that for maybe every 5,000 kilometers, you have to service the car. Or that for every 6 months, you have to service the car, anyone that comes first. So this Uber driver keeps using this Uber and is giving you the money at the end of the day. So when he gets to 6 months, he comes to you, boss, let us service this car. And you say, no, keep using it. The guy will keep using it over and over and over again. Then he keeps telling you, let's get this done, let's get that fixed. serviced, but you keep collecting the returns, and you are not making any effort to get the car serviced. So one day, the engines of that car is going to knock. So who are you going to blame? Are you going to put the blame at the doorstep of the Uber driver or the owner of that car? So it's very clear. Okay. The workers in the refineries, they are extreme. In fact, they are professionals. But when they are not being given the tools to work, when a maintenance program is designed, and at the end of the day, the tools to, the spare parts to get some of the machinery parts changed are not there. Okay. Some of the things they need to use to get this plant to put them in workable state are not there. So if those things are not provided, the workers will be handicapped. That is exactly what has happened in those refineries. But again, as Pengasan,
yes.
Okay.
I assume.
As Pengasan again, I could.
Go ahead, land on that point.
Okay. To also state as well that yes, we could certify that currently there are massive rehabilitation going on in Port Harcourt refinery, and the quick fix going on in Warri refinery is also moving. The only one that is a bit backtracked is the Kaduna refinery because of the security that was stated by the contractor that was supposed to do the quick fix in Kaduna. So in Port Harcourt, massive rehabilitation going on. In Warri, there are a lot of jobs that are also going on. So, because we told government that, this time that we are going to monitor them and we'll keep them accountable to ensure that those refineries come to work. But don't put the blame. Nigerians should not put the blame at the doorstep of a worker.
It's not just blame, it's just to understand, because, there are also, critical stakeholders in it, because if that car is not functional, they themselves will not get paid. And but it just so happens, leading to the question that I meant to ask you, there were budgets for workers at those refineries. They earned their day's pay. Was there ever, even though, as you said, the refineries weren't working, they were earning a day's pay and without, getting productivity? The question that I would like to ask you, was there ever a time that a strike was called by Pengasan simply because the maintenance wasn't happening according to what the members of the staff of those organizations expected? Was there ever a time a strike was called to the effect?
Yes. So in the matter of payment, so what do happen? Because NNPC is a group. So currently now, in Port Harcourt refinery, when it was 100% functional, you could have over 800 to 900 staff working there. But when it was not functioning, most of these people, they were transferred to other SBUs. You have the NAPIMS, that they now call NUIMS. You have MPDC. They transferred most of them. But they now kept the critical staff who could be doing some certain functions. The machine part, the way it works, it's just like, I like using analogies that Nigerians will understand. It's just like your car. So you have a car at well, and this car, you have the engine of that car, and the engine of there are some little maintenance you need to be doing so that engine of the engine of that car will not completely go out of, you will not scrap it. If not for the little maintenance that our members have actually been doing over the years in those refineries, this current rehabilitation wouldn't have worked. The current quick fix wouldn't have worked because you have a compressor. So if the refinery is shut down, you still have some parts that are functioning, right? So if it's shut down, maybe due to electrical functions, maybe due to the FCC riser not working or something like that, you have the compressor still working, you have the turbine still working, you have other parts still working. So the maintenance crew, they were retained in those refineries to be servicing those compressors, those turbines, and all that. If you did not retain those people, what would have happened is that you would have scrapped these refineries. They would have been beyond serviceable state.
I want to quickly ask you, Mr. Osifo, do you feel conflicted on this issue of fuel subsidy removal? I know that Pengasan has always advocated the removal of fuel subsidy. TUC has been ambivalent. I'm trying to find another word for it. But Labour, NLC, as we know, has always been against, because they say if it automatically translates to an increase of prices, they will be against it. Standing where you stand right now as head of Pengassan and as head of TUC, do you feel conflicted on the reaction of Labour to the removal of fuel subsidy?
No, not at all. You know, when I appeared in your program a while ago, before we commenced the conversation, I tried to draw the distinction that TUC is an umbrella body for over 30 trade unions. So when you have over 30 trade unions under a particular umbrella, then if one or two of those unions, they have a position, they have to subject their position to the debate. Pengassan is a NEC member of TUC. A lot of state chairmen and secretaries, they are from Pengassan as well. So when they come to NEC, the debate will be held. But a central position will now be taken. So as of today, the position of TUC has never clearly, for a very long time, has not been 100% against subsidy removal. But what has been said is that there are some condition precedent. So why don't you get those things done before you move over to remove subsidy? So, but that is also part of the debate we are going to have on Friday. So it's very clear to us.
I ask you that because you're president of Pengassan,
Yes,
and they have a position, and you have also canvassed that position before, even before you became the head of TUC. So right now, if you're saying that that has to be subsumed under the general position of TUC, and you're still the same person who's going to canvass it, how is that going to work?
Yes, it's very clear. You know, at all of us, we all came from different trade unions. So now, at the end of the day, there are representatives of Pengassan in TUC. So everybody will come in, we will have the debate. When we have the debate, Pengassan understand that their position as Pengassan is also subjected to the position of the center. So it's very clear. So the position that we will drive is the position that the center will take. And again, remember that as leaders, we take directives from our members, from the organs. We have the NAC in TUC, CWC in TUC, and we also have the NEC. So the NEC is going to meet on Friday. When the NEC meets, all these things will be put into it. Everybody will bring their cards to bear, and a final decision will be taken. So as to the way
just
forward.
before we go, let's get the last perspective from Alhaji Mustafa. Is it true that marketers, including some of yours, pay some monies to, I think they say, the MPA and the MASA in foreign currency, in dollars, which also impacts on the price of petroleum products?
Yes, that is a fact. That is a fact. Not only the payment of NIMASA and other naval agencies, even the shipment of the product from the mother vessel to the coastal depot where the product is being discharged, it is all charged in dollar.
Why is it in dollars? Why can't they be in naira
really
in the country?
The price.
Why is it that the payments within the country cannot be in naira?
I cannot be in a position to answer why. But in a country where we have our currency as naira, ideally every transaction that is supposed to be done in the country is supposed to be handled in our own national currency. For whatever reason, is still lingering, and that is what is going on, and is having effect on the prices, landing cost of the petroleum product to the coastal depot.
All right, Corbin, maybe that's one of the things that might come up in that meeting, because, I mean, if it's a huge challenge here, why are we paying those within Nigeria now? Why it shouldn't be in dollars?
Yeah, Chamberlain, that was a very valid question. We have challenged this before now. MPA and IMASA, they collect their charges in USD, and we have consistently queried that. But for that of the vessels, these vessels are international flag vessels, so that's understandable. Yeah. But for Nigeria, institution of government are collecting their fees in USD, I think it is completely wrong, and it must be removed.
All right, we'll look forward to all of those meetings, but there are some statements that have come through from government which suggest many rivers to cross with Labour at that meeting. But we'll have to thank both of you for coming on this morning. Festus Osifo, President of Pengasin and TUC. Alhaji Zaraba Mustafa, who joined us from our studios in Maiduguri, is Deputy President of IPMAN. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambly.
All right, well, back in a moment. We'll get to hear some perspective, albeit from government in the manner of speaking. Maybe you'll see why in just a moment. Stay with us.
My people, you know, say election don't finish now. You don't elect president, elect governor, National Assembly members, State of Assembly members. But Matasi the tribunal, well, we have to move forward. First of all, the person where you send go office, it be like say you send a message. You suppose they check upon him, you suppose they call him, you suppose they ask him the money where I put for your hand, how you take the manage him, employment, opportunities where you promise me for manifesto, you go do him, I be you no do him. Now here, budget is gonna make it simple for you. If you track government budget, how government takes spend money for your area from budget.org. You even fit track public projects, all the roads, the schools, the hospitals for your area, tracker.ng. You even fit on allocation for your state, for your local government, me.budget.org. Now, the matter in your hand. The person where you send go office, you supposed to make sure say they work for you. This message now from Budget.
Every healthy family needs the right amount of energy to start their day, but saucing for breakfast with a splendid blend of nutritious multigrains, big wahala. With the new Kellogg's Gold Grain cereal, you don't have to go through all of that. So now, your mornings can look like this.
Go, 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 Gold Grains. Love the goodness of its multigrains. Grain sets go!
Also available in banana flavor.
Breakfast time is Kellogg's time.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Yes, indeed, Ambassador Jerry Ugokwe joins us. He's a former Nigerian ambassador to Austria, Slovakia, and permanent representative to United Nations office in Vienna. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, and good to be here again.
Thank you. You're a member of the ruling party. You've you're in the circles, you have this conversation. It's not new to you in the party, perhaps. So now that this is what Nigerians are grappling with, perhaps I could just even start by asking you, what was the mindset, I mean, in the circles, perhaps in the party, while this conversation went on concerning fuel subsidy to be or not to be?
Well, again, the issue of fuel subsidy had been discussed across board. Almost all the parties. You are aware that even the PDP, the Labour Party, name them, everybody was talking about fuel subsidy removal. And even the ordinary man on the street believes that some people are making a killing out of our money through this fuel subsidy removal. And a personal experience, tells me, that people are just, milking us dry in the process of, paying subsidies and things like that. For me, the party, or rather the president, has made a decision, after all that discussions that we had, and outrightly said the subsidy will go. Now, remember that before he took over, the outgoing government said that subsidy will be removed by June.
Which is also an APC government, yeah.
Fine. So what that meant was that he was just confirming, what the government before him had said. But typical Nigerian, once this was said, the next morning, but not a few hours after, you couldn't even buy.
But it turned out that wasn't the case. But I'll come to that. But let me just pick up on what you said previously. When you say some persons were making a kill out of fuel subsidy, that may sound good on paper. But the reality now is that if it's gone, as they say it is now, the elite could still afford the price. But look at it. It's the poor people now that are feeling this heat. 557 naira per litre. Not many will easily walk in and buy as much as they want. Now, they will be the one feeling this now.
I agree with you. I think that this is an opportunity for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to change the scenario. I say this because as an ambassador to Austria, I got to Austria and I decided to visit everybody that was in my office. Incidentally, there was a lady who was my private secretary, and the day I wanted to visit her house, it was like driving from here to Lokoja. At the point, I was asking my driver, "Are you sure where we're going to?" He said, "Yes, sir. This is a woman that comes to the office before me and leaves after me. Sometimes I leave office at 2 a.m. So when I got there, I said, "This is really where you live and you come to work before 7 a.m. in the morning and sometimes you leave at 3 a.m. He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Okay, tomorrow when we get to the office, remind me, I'll do a letter and buy you a car," because I knew she didn't have a car. She said, "Thank you, Your Excellency," and she laughed. After laughing, she told me, "Sir, Your Excellency, I don't need a car." I said, "What? I don't need a car." He said, "Look across my apartment. First of all, if I own a car, I'll pay for the license, I'll buy fuel, I will pay for parking in the office and in my apartment. I will fix the car. Where will I get the money to do that?" He said, "But look across my apartment. There's a train station there. In the office, you're well aware, across the office there's a train station. And there's train service 30 minutes, 24/7. So if you once I'm paid salary of December, I buy a 1-year ticket to go to anywhere in Austria. So that's how, so why would I need a car?" So what am I saying? That, what this government can do is all these monies that are saved from, from this subsidy that we're talking about could be deployed. For example, in making sure that we all have rail services. You can imagine if there's rail here, you can live in Kaduna and come to work in Abuja without, a problem. So those are the things that I believe that the new administration will start focusing on. Because instead of paying this money to certain individuals or to certain people who are doing this importation, we can now use it to address basic issues of the society.
Now, when you then say that the president made a statement only to clarify what the previous government had done about fuel subsidy and the position of the law, but that Nigerians, if I understand you properly, kind of misunderstood him or misquoted him and changed, which resulted in the queues, if that's the point you're trying to make. Is that right?
Yeah, why I'm concerned about that.
No, but is that the point you're trying to make?
That's the point I'm trying to make.
Let me put in the question.
The president made a statement.
I got that. So let me just put in the question. Now, the thing is, it turns out that from the look of things now, it appeared as though Nigerians didn't actually misunderstand him. Because when he said that, this band of fuel prices came through. And when he said that, not it only coming through, the comment from Labour here, which is quoted in one of the dailies, quoting Mr. Alake saying, government only engaged Labour on way forward after subsidy removal. This suggests or connotes that, look, this is what we want to do. This is what it is. And this is what we're trying to do moving forward. Plus, now, from what the government has said about that statement you're making a reference to, subsidy is supposed to be there up until June.
Yeah.
But as it is now, they're not even respecting that law anymore. It's gone through the roof.
Now, let me, you know the reason why I said what I said.
Why?
Now, the president made that statement, on Monday, right? And then on Tuesday, the fuel prices went up, isn't it? Now, did those petrol stations, did they get their fuel supplies on Tuesday or even before Monday? Those are the questions that we need to ask. They have their fuel or whatever, the PMS, they have it in their, storage.
If that's the case,
they just locked it up and hiked up the price.
We hear you, and we did ask them the same questions.
Yes.
But if that were the case, and if it was not supposed to be, as you seem to suggest, the president is number one in this country. He could correct that. If they misunderstand him, has he done that?
I believe that is why they call the meetings that they have called, both the Labour and the Carry and the rest of it. I believe that was why. Again, I want us to understand one thing. Nigeria is a country that belongs to all of us, okay? And the president is just one person. Okay, and I believe that it is important that Nigerians should also do the right thing.
What is the right thing?
The right thing is to clarify things before they go out and do it. Because, of course, the commotion, the problems that this has created. Even you as a president and you go back and say, change this back to what it was until June. It is also going to create even more crisis.
Pardon me, what are you asking that they clarify in this context?
No, but the point I'm making is that those who market fuel, what they would have done was not to wake up the next morning and increase the prices of fuel they bought at a certain price, that is not the price of removal of subsidy. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, because you and I know this. You know this clearly, that these fuels had come in even before the other administration left. Most of the tankers those fuels have been supplied to them.
Yeah, but we also know that these people are going to go back to the market. If at the end of the day, when they go back to the market, the price has already gone up, how are they going to make up the shortfall, which they obviously will experience?
You buy what your money can buy, and you come back and sell it at the price you ought to sell it. That's how people who are, organized do things.
In other words, you make a loss first.
No. You haven't made a loss because you have sold the one you bought at the particular price you were supposed to sell it. So you have made money. The new ones you're buying, you're going to sell them at the rate that will make you make profit.
You make it seem like as if when you go to the market, you can ask for half a tanker or a quarter of a tanker.
No. You can ask for one tanker instead of two.
That's what I'm saying. So if the money that they make? Because what we see now is that the price of petrol has gone up to much as
540, the case
thereabouts. So this is coming from as much as maybe about 200 naira. If that is the case, imagine you bought a tanker at say 4 million naira, and then now you have to pay almost times.
So which one is better now? I bought a tanker of fuel at 150 naira, and I go to the market and sell it for 540 naira. Is that fair?
Yeah, but Ambassador,
you get what I'm saying?
You're suggesting as though these people are stronger than government. Government, they have regulatory agencies.
No, I'm not saying so. I'm saying that we all have a part to play in making Nigeria work. We just, the idea is not to say, the president is the only person that can do the right thing. No, I'm saying myself, where I am, sitting here, I should be the change that I want to see.
So you sell, let's even take it that you buy it at 150, you sell it at 540, and then you go back to the market. The market is certainly selling about that price at that time. So did you really make a profit? It will be the question.
You have made a profit on the one you bought. We're talking, you can't make a profit on what you have not bought.
Is it really a profit? That's the question. If you intend to remain in the business.
It is a profit. I also do business, so I know what I'm talking about. When you buy something, you make a profit on it. You go back to the market, it has increased. You haven't bought. All that will happen is
but Ambassador,
you buy something new, then you increase the price.
One of them did tell us here today that they haven't spoken to one of them. He says they buy per week. So in your case, maybe if it's there for a month or longer, so that may apply. But if it's on a short term, it won't apply.
The point, if they buy per week, which means they bought it the week before, and they're now selling it for a price.
They buy from NNPC,
yes,
which is the sole importer. So they should be the ones answering a lot of these questions. Probably not independent marketers, as they say.
We are saying about the same thing. That is not only the president who will make this country work. You and I have a responsibility to make this country work.
Maybe you mean NNPC.
That is what I'm talking about.
Okay, our colleagues in Lagos, I've got questions for you. Guidance.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Ambassador, going by that that analogy, it will mean that the NNPC is doing the same thing. They since increased, the price of products, the pump price, and I imagine it's not new stock. So, would you be saying this to the NNPC as well?
I'm saying it to everybody. Well, remember, that NNPC is no longer the NNPC you used to know. NNPC is now a limited liability company. So, they are, quote unquote, behaving like a Nigeria limited liability company. So the fact that NNPC is also doing the same does not make it right. What I'm saying is that we all, in our little position, whether as NNPC or as Jerry Ugokwe Incorporated, will sit down and do the right thing. Assist the government, assist the president in making this country work.
But, Ambassador,
I'm very optimistic because, yes.
Forgive me, I find it very interesting saying that the NNPC doesn't operate the same way it used to. Yes, there's a lot, but it's still government-owned largely by extension. We had the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Petroleum incorporated. The government appointed the board. So it's still government-owned in that extent. So it's still, you can't separate government from the NNPC. So why is a government-owned enterprise doing this that you would expect from, the average businessman out there? Shouldn't the government be called out on this?
That is basically why the NNPC MD was also called for a meeting yesterday.
But he's since
they've since released that statement, had to come to a meeting.
And the government has not given a statement. I mean, we saw what happened with the DSS and the EFCC. The president released a statement, said, DSS, you need to vacate that office right there. That was swift. We've not seen the same with this NNPC statement, and it's lingered for almost a day now.
I'm glad that you're happy with what happened with the DSS, because in the past, what would have happened? First of all, DSS would have occupied a place, and then the government would set up an interim committee.
I mean, the EFCC-DSS conversation is something entirely different. We're talking about the petroleum sector now, and I'm asking if you can actually speak to the government as well and say, well, government, yes, it is my party, but this is not right. So we expect the average businessman to do it, but not a government-owned enterprise.
Because so many other people are involved. That's why the government has called a meeting. You are aware, they had a meeting all through yesterday. And the meeting is continuing today. So that people could stand in the face and say, you are wrong, you are right. And again, what do we do from here? It's not as easy as just waking up and writing, reverse the prices.
No, what I'm saying is, if it is deemed a wrong decision, why hasn't the government halted it? It is as simple as what played out in the DSS and EFCC situation.
That's why I'm saying, I say this one involves many more people. It involves you and I even. That is why a meeting had to be called. And this meeting, by the time they come out of that meeting, some solution, would have been decided.
All right.
That's basically why it is.
Okay, Ambassador, they've since come out of that meeting. They couldn't reach any conclusion. Labour is meant to meet Friday.
And they are continuing today.
But clearly, the government is allowing what you deem a wrong thing to continue. But since it looks like this is what the government, this is the direction of the government, I mean, whether or not you say it's out till the end of June, it is what Nigerians
No, I don't think it's their direction. What the government is doing is try not to make the same mistake again. You see, when a mistake has been made and you just jump out and make another one, you are complicating the situation. So now they have realized that before this would have happened, it would have been better for this discussion to be heard so that people will understand the situation. Now, it is not late to talk.
All right.
That's why, they quickly, went in and called a meeting.
I'm going to yield to my colleague now, but I hope you understand the point I'm making. Right now, as we speak, Nigerians are buying petrol at NNPC filling stations and other filling stations for 500 naira and above. So this is continuing. Whether or not you think it's a wrong decision, it is going on, and we expect a proactive government to step in and say, this is not what Mr. President meant. NNPC, you have to reverse it, whether or not the meetings are ongoing. But let me just yield to my colleague because of time.
Maybe I'm going to stay on that same question of the ownership of the NNPC for a little bit, and I'd like you, Ambassador, to give us an understanding. So the NNPC, understanding just for Nigerians to really get what the drift is, the NNPC says the federal government is owing them money. Who owns the NNPC?
The NNPC is a limited liability company owned by a number of agencies, if you will. Now, the idea is that before, NNPC was, quote-unquote, an arm of government where they're doing business just like a government business. But realizing, that the way to go about an agency like that is to make it a limited liability company where they have a board, where they are responsible to their owners. That's why the government now said, let us make NNPC a limited liability company.
We have limited time. I just want you to maybe just use one word, because as Kayode said, it's government that appoints the board and all of those things that make the NNPC run. So that's why I'm asking the question. Is the NNPCL owned by the federal government or the Federal Republic of Nigeria? That's the question that I'm asking specifically.
NNPC is owned by Nigerians.
Okay. Who speaks for Nigerians as far as the NNPCL is concerned? I assume it's the federal government. The managing director of the NNPC. Who reports to the president?
They have a managing director. They have a chairman. He reports to the board. He reports to the board of NNPC, not to the president.
To whom does the NNPCL as an organization report, if not the federal government or the president?
NNPC reports to the board. There's a board. When you have a limited liability company, the chairman of the board and the board members.
My point here is that the NNPCL and its board is owned by a body that reports to someone outside of that body. That's the point that I'm making. That is why the president could summon the NNPCL GMD or GCEO and ask him to come, and he would. So that's the basis of the question. So if the NNPCL, owned by Nigeria, Nigeria is represented by a head called the president. Why then would the NNPCL be breaking the law from what Chamberlain mentioned to you earlier, that at the end of June, this thing is supposed to terminate, but the NNPCL itself has broken that law, it would seem?
Basically, I just said this and I continue to say it. The reason why this meeting was called between NNPC, suppliers, Pengasin and the rest of it, is because they want to sit down and resolve the issues. The meeting has not ended, so I cannot say what they will come out of the meeting with. Okay. They will blame whoever makes the mistakes. They will, ask for punishment if need be. That's why that meeting is going on. It's continuing today, and I believe that at the end of that meeting, we're going to have there will be answers to some of your questions.
Well, Nigerians are definitely waiting because, there has to be a head somewhere. But perhaps this...
I am waiting too because I pay for fuel too. Okay. 500 and something.
Okay, well, the way you're speaking, many people will just assume that, you have some interests. But perhaps the challenge here, Ambassador, is that of communication of these ideas. The way it is, and even if we listen to the former Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, saying that as far as he is concerned, the federal government under Buhari already removed the subsidy because the law was clear on that. So this successive government, this current government, isn't the one that removed the subsidy, but it is acting, people have been acting based on the four-letter sentence of the president. Fuel subsidy is gone. Action has been taken, left, right, and center on that basis. Do you see a challenge in the communication of that ideal and the management of that communication to the extent that this reaction we're seeing wouldn't have happened in the first place?
No, I think, we're getting so many of these things wrong. Remember that the outgoing government, it is their budget we're still running on. And that budget, which is the law. Okay? And that budget says that from June, there's no longer subsidy.
From the end of June, right? That 1st of July.
Which means there is no provision for that.
In July?
Yes.
But there is up until the end of June.
No, the point I'm trying to answer his question because he said, Fashola said subsidy is already removed. It is correct. And the president said subsidy is gone. It's correct because the budget they have, the report they have from the outgoing administration says this thing is removed because it is not budgeted for from so and so time onwards.
Yeah, but I think the point he's making is clear. From June, but as it is now, they are saying no more June. It's right now. It's kicked on, which they are saying, look, isn't this tantamount to gross violation of the law?
That is why the meeting is called, so that this whole thing will be reviewed.
Which meeting is
so that we know
to allow them break the law?
No, not allow them to break the law, to correct any mistakes that have been made.
What mistake is that to correct? Take it to July. It's simple and straightforward, Ambassador. What's going on here? But we'll wait to see if there'll be any pronouncement or comment whatsoever about what you said previously concerning those quote-unquote persons who were subsidy thieves. They're humans, not spirits. So we'll see what happens in that regard. And then, look, there's just several other perspectives in terms of what government needs to do in this case moving forward. But government promised quite a number of scenarios. Labour is asking, just fulfill your promise. But that hasn't happened as of yet. But I guess we'll wait and see what happens with all of that. We have to thank you, Ambassador Jerry Ugoke, former Nigerian ambassador to Austria, Slovakia, and permanent representative to United Nations offices in Vienna. Thank you for your time, and for Nigerians who seem hopeless at this stage, we hope that the party or your government will renew their hope which is what they promised.
It's always my pleasure, and I know that our hope will be renewed, and our hope is already renewed by some of the actions that you have seen.
With 557 naira per litre?
I mean,
that's not the way to renew it.
Not just about that. I'm talking about other things. We have made some appointments. You know, DSS was trying to do all kinds of things. We have stopped it, right?
How does that affect this person who's going to buy at 557 per litre?
I think that after the meeting, you know, something positive will come out of it. And,
we'll see.
You know.
All right, we'll have this first email coming through from Olagunju. Olagunju Oladele says, government plays a crucial role in informing and preparing citizens about the effects of their policies on various aspects of society, including mental well-being. Before implementing any policy, governments should first explain the objective, anticipated impact, and potential challenges associated with policies, even if it is beneficiary in the long run. They can also invest in public education campaigns to increase awareness and understanding of policy issues. Sometimes I wonder why we have National Orientation Agency. In the end, the goal is to establish a comprehensive approach that involves open communication, public participation, education, collaboration, and support services that can help mentally prepare citizens for the effects of government policies on the masses.
Well, eat the biggest frog, they said first. Nobody talked about the taste of the frog. Take a look at this one. Shamus Oni says, if the Buhari regime claimed that the subsidy regime will elapse at the end of June 2023, and Nigerians are currently being compelled to pay more for PMS at the deregulated price, what then happens to the subsidy provision to the end of June 2023? Clearly, this is a question begging for answer. That's from Shamus Oni.
I don't know why it tastes frog right now, but Daminabu Briggs has this tweet: all subsidy has been and will continue to be a recurring decimal unless our moribund refineries are made to work or we build new refineries. All subsidy will continue so long as we continue to import refined products. There is no magic about it.
Sunday Bassi says, Mr. President, do something about these fuel queues. Let's enjoy the subsidy to the end of the month. And Sammy is also saying, I spend much more on fueling my generator than I spend on fueling my car. Fix electricity first before removing the subsidy. Most SMEs run on petrol gens. This will cause very hard hardship. Wow, very hard hardship. Not a pleasant one. Well, that's the much of a Sunrise Daily for today, the first day in the month of June 2023. Have a wonderful day and a lovely month ahead. I'm Ayo Makinde.
I must say kudos to the Flying Eagles, by the way. Did you see that match? Nigeria 2, Argentina 0. Yeah, so that's something at least to cheer about. I'm Karaoke Kyolu.
Indeed, government has to look at SMEs who have to buy petrol to fuel their generators. That is extremely important. Thank you for sending in your feedback. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
We'll see what government does with the power sector. They said they're going to do something. Mr. President said he's going to address that as well, that it will be available, homes and offices. We'll wait on that one. I'm Chamberlain Usal. Goodbye.